Hey Collective, it's Al and welcome back to the channel. I actually wanted to talk about something related to releasing your fears, but in a very open way. And what I was thinking about was how a lot of people are afraid to truly ask the universe for what it is that they seek. And I was trying to think of a really prime example to share with you all about how we can limit ourselves from fear, from getting what we truly wanted or want. And the perfect example would be like, let's say that you want to find the truest of loves, and you are aware that you are coming into union with something sacred. Let's say that you're looking for what's the thing that they say? Twin flames. When you are looking for a twin flame, I always find that people are looking for an energetic signature that matches theirs, right? But they rarely ever tell the universe exactly what it is that is. So I'm going to use myself as an example of what it might look like if you truly released your fear and just asked the universe in a very candid way for exactly what it is that you actually are wanting. And so I was thinking about myself, and I was thinking about how I have this thing where it's all about the eyes for me. Like when I look at my partner, I want to see forever in their eyes. I want to see a reflection of the truest version of myself reflected back in them. Meaning someone who stands in their integrity, stands with their own moral and ethical fiber. We may not always see eye to eye on every issue, but we respect the other person. And when I look into their eyes, I want to see a reflection of their soul, right? Because that is what a harmonious union would be. And I had this image when I was younger that I really hold very near and dear, that's very high expectations. But if you don't seek it and you don't ask for it and you don't say it into the universe, then how are you ever expecting to even get remotely close to it? And so for me, what it was is I have this image in my head from when I was a kid about my partner and I always being almost in tandem with one another. So whenever we are together, for whatever reason, either our knees would be touching or we would be holding hands, or even in public. Like I'm not a big public affection person. It's not something that I'm not that needy. I'm not, sorry, I don't want to be judgy, but I'm not somebody who needs that codependency. But the idea of natural energies like magnets pulling towards the other really fascinates me. And I always thought it would be very romantic to always be connected to the other person just naturally. So it would be something we didn't put effort in. But it'd be like, let's say we walked into a room and the other party is talking to someone else. Immediately, without my trying, my energy signature would make their eyes pop, but with like that sparkle, and we would immediately, no matter how long we'd been married, lighten up. Like we'd immediately be like, hey, and there'd be like a sparkle. And so I always thought that would be very interesting, because that energy would then beget a closeness. We would always want to be, when we're together, either touching hands or touching fingers, or somehow always, even if it's our legs are crossed, like in an interview for whatever reason. It was what I was in an interview, and the vision I had. I have a wacky imagination, but that we had our legs crossed, and both of our shoes, like one leg was this way and the other leg was this way, and so our tip of our shoes were touching, and it was what I actually saw. And so ever since I got that impression, I've always wanted that type of symbiotic relationship with someone else, someone who is connected to something greater and higher than themselves, but that wants to leave a legacy with someone else that is about brotherhood and sisterhood, about uniting the planet. And what a turn on in and of itself that would be. But there's a tenderness that I seek in my connection, which is no matter what kind of day we're having, the moment that we come into contact with each other, it just flushes away. And that instead of being combative, if we don't agree with something, we see the other person's point of view first. And we say to them, like, I get what you're saying, and yeah, I would totally have the same reaction. And then kind of segue very politely into where we would vary and give them another up. But you see what I'm saying? It wouldn't be anything forced. It would be something very organic. And one of the things that I find interesting about my particular energy signature, frequency, let's call it frequency, with my particular frequency, is that I have this thing about being very loving to all people. But the one thing that I do is that I immediately know how to remove that connection from it being intimate. The only thing that I will say is that when it comes to people talking shit about me, it doesn't bother me at all. Like it's been a long time where people have said stuff. So it absolutely does not reflect onto me. But the moment that they would say anything about my partner, then I become the savage, and then I'm beating a bitch down. It's kind of the way I look at it. And even though it's like kind of petty, it's also exceedingly romantic to my counterpart to know that even though I can handle myself and that the people will say whatever they want to say, there is like a natural inclination I would find on my vibration where it would be okay for them to talk about us individually or to take like to say something rude, but the moment that they talked about the other party, then the fierce lying would come out. And there's something very, very appealing and romantic about that notion. It's not necessarily codependent because we can handle ourselves, but it's something that you organically do with people that are really, really important to you. And since we're all embarking on this new journey where we're finding a brand new life and we're being gifted with opportunity, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, the empire that I am creating for my life has room for an emperor, or because I'm technically the feminine, although technically I'm the feminine, and so the masculine would have to fit into that, and so it would be two souls that have these really high expectations who probably have a lot of defenses up, because I'm telling you, like, just for me to even share this with you took basically I had to twist my dick in order to get myself to actually do this, because I was like, what am I doing? But I realized it's a perfect example of what it is that we're holding ourselves back from. Because if you can't say it, and you can't say it to, like, let's say, if you have, for whatever reason, if you're being called to stand before the collective at this point to unite the planet, then you have a certain public persona or something that's very public about your relationship. Okay, so if you can't even talk about what it is that you're attracted to, then you're going to attract the wrong vibration. You're going to attract people that may not understand where you're coming from and may not see the vision or may not know the vision. And so the only way to then even funnel that down further and get what you truly desire, and for the divine to truly hand those of you who are chosen exactly what you want, you have to cross this like frightening thing where people, they're going to judge you. You're too sensitive. You're too vulnerable. Yes, but I'm only vulnerable with that other person. Just because you all are hearing what it is that turns me on or that what it is that I'm looking for doesn't mean that anyone will fit that bill. But I can't get what I'm looking for. I can't attract that energy if I'm not willing to put it out there. And if there's any type of public persona, then instead of us having to deal with it, it would just be something very organic, because you know what you're getting when you're buying the cow, and so you already know what kind of cow it is. You know what I mean? And so I know that's a really random way to express it, but I'm a little bit dorky at times. And so I was thinking about further explanation of what else I would see in the other person. And there is an intimacy there. There is the oneness, the quality of seeking a higher power and representing that love with two individuals reflective of the other. And what that unity, that closeness would do as far as the power that the two combo would create for the world. Because they would be naturally always, not even forced it, but just naturally wanting to be in each other's sphere all the time. You would be away from fear, entering a new sphere of two spheres. So you see what I'm saying? So it would be like the infinity ring, and then the omega surrounding the infinity ring, almost like two eyes would be the two of you, and then divine union would be the omega, which is the divine. And so I thought how romantic that would be, and I realized I had never really opened myself up to it. I didn't realize how guarded I was, but I'm super guarded against bullies or anything like that, because I'll tower over them. But I'm super extra guarded around my emotions, and I realized it was because I had, I guess, not a fear, but like past hurts where people have tried to prey upon it. And y'all know I'm a Cancerian, Leo rising, so I love to let people dig their own ditch. Like I'll sit there. I know intuitively what they're doing. I'm not an idiot, and I'm the wrong one to fuck with. I'm gonna say that right now. But I'm the perfect person for me to just let you dig your own hole, and I'll be like, oh, is that what happened? And then what happened? And then 4 months down the road, go, hey, you remember that night? And touch every single lie that you've done. And it's a sad codependent kind of lower vibrational thing that I've gotten out of. But as far as what the walls I've built, I realized I'm not going to be able to reach the right person if I don't first open the door. And so this is a perfect exercise for those of you in the collective that come across this and go, what is he doing? I'm opening the door to whatever the universe would like for me. And I'm realizing in this moment that not only do I have my own power in it, but I'm going to get exactly what I want because I'm willing to fight for it. And what I mean by that is I'm willing to say the truth and not care what the world thinks, because this union that I'm coming into would be with someone exceedingly powerful in themselves, just like I am. And so I would need that transparency. Isn't that what the turquoise leadership is all about? And so I started to think about it. I'm like, well, what's the last barrier? What is truly holding me back from actually finding the truest expression of God's love? And I realized it was that I was afraid of being vulnerable And I realized, how am I going to reach the right vibration at this vibration? Because it's such a unique, like for those of you that are even understanding this, we're so unique. It's like some of our vibrations have never existed before. And so we can't attract the opposing party into our atmosphere if we don't first be very clear. And since we're heading into the Aquarian age, I realized there's a connection there about, I've noticed for myself when I manifest very clearly, I manifest it in a public way. And it's not like out of ego or attention. It has something to do with the fact that we're in an Aquarian age where it's very technological. And so instead of being afraid to put it out there, I've learned to embrace the fear and convert it into an opportunity. And so I realized, well, okay, I'm not worried about the physical. Like, it could probably be somebody a little bit older, because I have a tendency to, I think long term. I think like a strategist. So they would probably be somebody who's very grounded in earth, and I'm kind of more in the clouds, and so that energy would kind of balance itself out. But as far as age, that's never been an issue. I have a thing where, like, every now and then, if you're too young, I kind of look at you and go, I don't know that much about, poop culture, but I'm letting go of that fear. But I will never know unless I open the door and kind of let it all in. And I realized what a great lesson, or not a lesson, but that would be a great story to share with you all. Because when you see it, and you see how easy it is, and then you realize, well, who cares if someone says something? If the person that you're looking for stumbles across what you've said, and finds the truth in your eye, and that's for them, then what fucking difference does it matter what XYZ dickhead over here, and it doesn't matter. But think of what you've gained, because a lot of the divine masculines are going through this whole ego stripping thing, and it's something that has to happen. We like to all know it, but it's really painful. But it's always nice to know that there is someone there in the world that speaks your language and that has something that they can offer you that is long term. And so for me, I was like, well, I don't want just anybody. Like, I don't want, because like at this vibration, like we all know that we got to be really careful who we end up with. But I bring so much spiritual wealth to the equation, and what I want to preserve is that I want someone who reflects a moral and ethical stance for themselves. It doesn't have to be mine. Some of the greatest relationships can be opposing ends. I'm not an idiot, but what I'm saying is that I bring so much of that to the equation that I would want that reflected, even if it's not necessarily the same religion. Like, someone could be Muslim, and someone could be Jewish, and I could be just very spiritual. But the fact that we have that ingrained into us, then we're more likely to accept that in the other and honor that. And so that's part of the attraction that would happen, is because no matter how different we are, the base of our operations, the way that we see the universe and how the universe interacts with us, would be the same. It would just be from different vantage points. And I thought, well, that'd be incredibly romantic. So for me, I don't know about you guys, but wouldn't that be awesome to not just fall asleep with someone, but to fall asleep like playing with their hair, and both of you pass out, and then neither one of you let go of the other. Now that sounds a little codependent. That's not what you're seeking, but I'm saying naturally, let's get rid of the codependency fear, because codependency can have a negative connotation, but there's something called love, absolute love. And if you're truly wanting to be romantic and be truly loving, then you pass the codependency point and you actually just become yourself, and that when you are your own power, the codependency falls away, right? So let's go with that. So let's say that you fall asleep, because that's another guy. So I like to play with their hair. Like they're right here, or I'm right there, and they play with my hair, or whatever it is, and we fall asleep. Well, what if the two people naturally just didn't let go of each other, and they just cuddled with each other? Now, normally, I would say that probably for my other half and me, we would probably both be likely that don't like necessarily too much of that, always being on top of each other. We're very independent people. But I have a feeling that when I really release my walls and really look inward, that there would be no greater romantic gesture than to fall asleep with someone and then find out the next morning when you wake up that you didn't move, and it was just something organic. Wouldn't that be incredibly romantic? And where you knew, like, you saw in the other person that, like, for us being gay, we have this, gay, that we have this thing where there's children and we want to have kids and stuff like that. Well, you have to have a specific way of looking at the world in order to really match up with someone vibrationally, if you have that extra layer of adversity added to your plate. And so wouldn't it be nice to know that the person that you have chosen to have your children with is a person that can't seem to let you go, and it's just something that they don't try. It's just something that happens naturally. God creates people, and partnerships, and that's what we're talking about. So instead of looking at it for being too vulnerable or too weak, understand that there's no greater power and no greater strength than a true love pairing. And that partnership would be built in not only organic friendship, but you would be so incredibly drawn to the other person. I have a feeling that me and my partner are not going to leave the bedroom for a while. I got a warning from a friend of mine. It's like, y'all are going to need, you're going to need some temperance. You're going to need some balance here. And that's really cute. But it comes from the fact that it wouldn't be forced. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in this whole vibrational switch, because I'm on this whole ascension thing. And I've been granted this whole new world. Is that I have to keep stopping to reset my old ways, because the past is gone. And for my counterpart, I think that's a big thing for them too, that the past, they have to leave the past behind. And so I realized that I think the reward is a whole new experience in how we experience love. It doesn't matter what other people say, because they're not going to be around anyway. It's about you and the other person. And if you have done the work, then it stands to reason that God doesn't lie. He has never lied. He has never lied. So that you will get exactly who you are asking for. And how do you do that if you don't first be honest and humble? Well, not humble. Well, yeah, humble too. But honest and very forthcoming with what you're seeking. Like, I have this thing where I don't like morning sex. It's not my favorite thing. I haven't brushed my teeth. I don't want to smell but I have a feeling that with this person that might happen. And would I be okay with that? I'm like, hell yeah. Completely new person. A completely different vibration than I used to be. Or, I have this thing where I used to, as a bartender, I would always go, and as soon as I sat behind the bar, I'm on. It's like be on stage, right? And so, though it will vary a little bit between the two worlds that I'm entering now, between I still have that with me. So I would probably be more reclusive now. I would rather spend more time with my partner and know that, more than likely, we'll probably end up working together somehow. We're both independent people, and so there's no longer that need to prove ourselves. This is more about two people coming together and changing the world in some way, shape, or form, and really having a passion for humanity. And so that type of energy, typically you would want to surround yourself with other people like that. Plus, we're counterbalances, so I have to be very clear. I know that my counterpart is going to say some shit that's going to be like, oh, for me, I never thought about that. And then be like, yeah. And then be like, hey, asshole, lower the nose, okay? Because you didn't think about, you know what I mean? And there's quick banter, fun humor, because I'm all about making the other person laugh. But with this, it would be a turn on. It would be a little bit sardonic at times, but a little bit higher vibrational, a little bit tongue-in-cheeky and kind of poking the bear a little bit, but in a way that's respectful and not hurtful. You're always in a relationship in this scenario where you're rewarding the other. And so I thought, well, for the collective, wouldn't that be a fun little exercise? What would you record yourself? Let's say you're not going to show it. I'm ballsy. I have no fear in this, so I'm going to put it out there. But for those of you that aren't in that place yet, what if you decided to record yourself in what you truly wanted and really saw yourself and was honest? What would that do for your universe, and how much faster would you maybe bring something towards you? Because the one thing that I've noticed is that I'm not seeking it, it's seeking me. It's a weird vibrational thing where we're pulling towards each other. I think he's got a bigger issue with it than I do. But I'm not looking for it. And so I think that's why all of this is starting to become very clear in my head. And I just thought I would share that with you, the collective, on what I'm willing to do to have my happy ending. And that's to not be afraid. What if someone says something? Oh, well, what if I marry the man of my dreams? What are they going to say? Oh, I was making fun of you and you got everything you ever wanted. That's all I wanted to say, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.